Okay, I just got to say it.
Hit me.
Joel Embiid to Houston for the expiring contract of Fred VanVleet and
Wow.
Cam Whitmore.
That would be very interesting.
You would do it, right?
I see the value in both. Like the worst, I don't know. I'm
Silly pride and Sistad's all Andrew rapping and Wild Bulls. Together they talk sports and dreams right behind the scenes. It seems Simbers and White hear the call. Who's the greatest? Who will fall with this rivalry? Now we're clear. Join the chat. It's time to cheer. Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew, Sistad, Brad unite. Philly and Y in the spotlight.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 49. We are previewing and we are fixing the Philadelphia 76ers. Welcome to the Philadelphia 76ers off-season guide episode. On this episode, we're going to reshape the Sixers roster after their disastrous season. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. For our returning viewers, listeners, subscribers, we appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, comment on the video below. For any of you who are tuning into the pod for the first time, I assume it's going to be a lot of you, and I'm assuming that you're probably a Philadelphia 76ers fan, and this video came across your feed. Welcome to the pod. Just to give you a little context real quickly, Sistad, as you can see by his hat, a diehard Sixers fan. I have to admit, I'm not a Sixers fan. I'm a Knicks fan, but I absolutely love the off-season front office management stuff. I love going through payrolls. I love going through luxury tax. I love going through player fits, role players.
I thought you were going to say you love your co-host. Wow, I was getting
extension
ready.
eligibility. I love going through what teams are going to cut payroll, what teams are looking to add, what teams are looking to find a piece or role player that fits a certain role, what teams match up in trades. So I went through the entire league, all the teams, all the role players, something that you dude, I can safely say you can never be found going through the Pelicans' 10th man and trying to understand. Yes.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I would not be caught dead doing that. I'm not a trade machine guy. Like you see some of these people, like they spend hours on the trade machine, like trying to configure stuff that's just never going to happen or materialize.
Well, they're also not perfect machines. You shouldn't just rely on them assuming that, oh, well, the trade machine says it works.
I understand. I guess. So what you're doing is pretty gnarly, I would say. I could see.
I enjoy it.
I could see why the trade machine would be fun to poke around with. It's just not for me. I would rather not do things, and it usually happens this time of year, which is the summer. So I'd rather be outside and do more fun things.
And when when they make a move, you react, you get excited,
Yes.
You get angry, and
Yes.
then you watch the games, you get angry and you get happy, and you go through the ups and downs of being a fan. But luckily for you, and fortunately for us, I do love doing this stuff. So I have come to this off-season preview episode with a bunch of different ideas for you to say, yes, no, I like that, I don't like that. And within these ideas are sub-ideas.
Well, so, thank you. Thank you for putting in the legwork. And it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
And at the end of this, we're going to have reshaped the 76ers roster. And we're going to send it to Daryl Morey.
Beautiful.
All right.
Maybe he'll listen.
I want to start off with something that's going to... This is important. I'll get through it quickly, but I just want to start off with the salary cap, payroll, contract outlook real quickly, just to provide context so you understand why I'm giving you the ideas I'm giving you, the options I'm giving you, and why I'm saying I don't think you're going to be able to do this, this, and that. And for our viewers and listeners to understand the context of what we're talking about. Why are they talking about trading this guy? Why are they talking about doing this? Because it all stems from the CBA with the aprons and the luxury tax, the stuff that you mock. But we have to on a certain level have a basic understanding of what's going on. It's very complex. I spent a lot of time going through it. I definitely don't understand a good portion of it because it's very complicated. I am pretty confident that most front office, most team presidents don't even understand 100% of it. So the first apron is triggered at $195,950,000. The Sixers are currently sitting at $7.5 million below the first apron. So they're not a first apron team. And then they're about roughly $14 million below the second apron. The Sixers have two of their own players as free agents. Do you know who these two are?
It would be Quentin Grimes.
Correct.
And a free agent, just a straight up free agent.
Grimes is restricted. This guy's unrestricted. He played 1 year with the team.
Eric Gordon.
No.
Yabusele. No.
Yabusele.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
So Quentin Grimes is a restricted free agent. You might see it if you're reading something as RFA.
Always been a huge Grimes fan, just for what it's worth.
Yes, you were impressed by him after the trade. In all seriousness, though, how could you not have been?
I was, but he was also good stats, bad team guy.
Yep.
But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just physically, he looked really good, and in theory, if someone who is of that caliber is asked to not take on as much responsibility, then hopefully he fits a better role than just putting up a bunch of empty stats.
It's not like he's this one-dimensional. He can score and can't do anything else. No, he actually can defend the point of attack. He can defend smaller guards. So anyway, he's a restricted free agent, so they can tender a qualifying offer to him, which they will most certainly do. Now they also have bird rights. Bird rights meaning that they can go over the luxury tax, or depending on where they are, what apron they're in, they can go over that next level, unless they're hard capped, to sign him because they have the bird rights. You can't go over the luxury tax, over the cap, over the next apron to sign a free agent from another team. But if you have bird rights for a player, you can go over it, unless you're hard capped, which we're going to get into. So by tendering him the qualifying offer, if another team makes an offer sheet for him, the Sixers have the right to match any single offer and keep him.
Mm-hmm.
They match the offer, they keep the player. Good. It's a good position to be in. The issue is they also have Yabusele, who's an unrestricted free agent and probably the most consistent scorer outside of Maxey on the roster, though, considering George was hurt and not very good, and then Embiid was injured. Right?
I mean, I don't even think you need to leave the word scorer in there. I would say he was just the most consistent player that the team had on all facets. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So he's unrestricted free agent. Remember, he was where, I don't know, what country was he playing in? Somewhere in Europe, right?
He was playing for Madrid, I believe.
Madrid. Okay.
Real Madrid. Yeah. I could be wrong,
so
but that sounds right.
I'll go with it because I don't know. So they signed him to the league minimum. He played really well, really effective player for the Sixers last year. Now he's an unrestricted free agent, and he can sign anywhere. The Sixers would love to keep him. They need good offensive players, especially with the health of their star players. He's probably not looking at a huge deal. He's probably in the range of the mid-level exception, which is around $5.7 million, maybe up to around $8 million. But the Sixers have a mid-level exception. They actually have it's called a room exception, but they have the taxpayer mid-level exception that they could sign Yabusele to. Great. They can keep Grimes, and then they can keep Yabusele. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. They can't do that, though. Here's the issue. If a team that's in the first apron signs a player for more than 2 years, so 3 years or more, they are hard capped at that first apron. Now, we just talked about they're under the first apron. Well, if say Quentin Grimes gets an offer sheet for, let's call it 3 years, $39 million, right? That's $13 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
That puts them into the first apron. And if they match that, that's a 3-year contract, and they are hard capped, meaning that no matter what, they can't re-sign a player. They cannot go over the first apron. So what does that mean? They can't keep Yabusele. Now, someone that's listening might say, "Oh, let's get a little tricky. Let's get a little creative here. Let's give Yabusele the mid-level exception, sign him, and then deal with Grimes." Except when you use the mid-level exception, you hard cap yourself for the first 8 rounds.
Come on.
So you can't. so it's going to be really difficult to keep both of them. They would have to offload money in almost every other area, which the thing that I, when doing this, found out really quickly about the Sixers and made their options limited is they're not like a lot of other teams that have $50 million, $40 million, $30 million, or $20 million player, $18 million player. No, it's 3 players that are making like $140 million, $150 million.
The big three.
Yeah. So I don't see a realistic way where they keep both of them. And I also would argue that you should be really careful about hard capping yourself for Quentin Grimes or a Yabusele. Like, I'd be careful before making a decision like that. Okay. Moving on. Other contract stuff. Player options. They have 3 player options still pending. They have Kelly Oubre, who has an option for $8.3 million. I would expect him to decline that. I think he's been pretty good. I think he can go out and get more than 1 year, $8.3 million. What do you think?
I think he might be able to. He has been very vocal about how much he loves Philadelphia, and that he loves playing for the Sixers. So maybe that has a little bit of a factor for him. But I certainly think that he is worth more than $8.3 million. I think he's a really good player. He's athletic. He's long. He's not the best shooter. He also does not have a very high basketball IQ. Definitely makes a lot of really stupid decisions, but he's great. I love watching Kelly Oubre. He kind of came in to Philadelphia with the reputation of he's kind of a loser, and he's like, he put up some stats on some really, really bad teams, but nobody liked playing with him. And Daryl signed him for the league minimum a couple years ago, and it was really good. And he's turned himself, he's made himself a little bit of money, and I think he's kind of turned his reputation around a little bit. So, but again, he really likes playing in Philly. He says that he fell in love with basketball again, playing for the Sixers. So maybe he does. Maybe it's worth it. And I think someone in his position, maybe not. Maybe he gets an offer from the Knicks or somebody who's better than the Sixers. But someone might want to kind of see. Someone might want to see this through, right? Because last year they never really took off. So, maybe someone in his position wants to see if they could put it all together and give it a go.
He could theoretically decline the option, then come back on that like a mid-level exception, do a 2-year like $11 million deal, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he'd probably just opt into the $8.3 million instead of doing that. Okay, so the other player option, Andre Drummond for $5 million. I have no idea what Andre Drummond's going to do. I can't imagine Andre Drummond in free agency getting much more than that. He's probably like a maybe top 10 backup center in the NBA at this point.
Yeah, in theory. I mean, he just played too much last year because of the Embiid stuff. But I don't know. They seem to like that rookie, or last year it was a rookie that they took in the second round of Dembona. He got a lot of run towards the end of the year. Pretty athletic, can catch lobs and stuff like that. But yeah, Drummond kind of sucks. I mean, he is what he is. He's a good rebounder, but
I think the Sixers would like if he declined that option.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I have a hard time predicting on what he's going to do. I have no idea. Because he can decline it and then sign for a mid-level exception or even like a league minimum at a place where he wants to play more.
Right.
I mean, he's made money throughout his career. So then the last player on the player option is Eric Gordon at $3.5 million, which I guess he'll probably pick up.
Probably.
He'll probably exercise that option.
Yeah.
He's not that good anymore.
He's not getting much else, I would assume. Another guy who just everybody was, obviously. It's such a trickle-down effect, but I was pretty excited when they signed him. If he could just come in and, play 15 minutes a game and hit 3 to 4 threes, like I would have been super happy with that. But he was starting in some games just because they were so decimated. So another guy who, if everything comes together, could be, a piece of a decent team. I was very shocked that they did not trade him last year to a contender for something. I mean, they couldn't have got a, not that that I don't really care about this, but yeah, I think that he still could have been contributed a little bit on a winning team. I was very surprised that nobody traded for him. Like before the deadline last year, not that they would have gotten much for him. I mean, they could have gotten, a 2029 second round pick, but yeah, I was pretty surprised. But again, if he picks it up, if everyone is back and healthy, I think that he can, he can contribute a little bit here and there. He could still shoot.
He can still shoot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that want the Sixers to just go out, there's no avenue for them to go out and sign a big time free agent. They don't have the availability to do that. For those of you that want to make a big trade, we're going to get into that. I have some ideas.
All right.
I wanted to make this next segment. The question is, what's the goal this offseason? So, is it to try to win with Embiid, Paul George, and Maxey? Is it to turn Paul George into a better fitting piece or a younger core? Is it a full rebuild, if possible? Is it to stand pat, hope for health and chemistry to return, but not without risking future assets? I think that's probably where you'd like them to do. I'm going to present 3 strategic paths, and then with specific options within those paths for you. And you can tell me what you think. I'm also going to tell you what I think is a realistic grade of each option. But what were you going to say?
I was just going to say it's going to be, I'm so interested to see what they end up doing, because it's such a unique situation, and like Daryl he's got like a big decision to make. I mean, he's got to have, and I'm sure GMs do this every year, but he's got to have 100 contingency plans just to build the roster. I don't know. I don't know what the best thing to do is. He's really got to kind of thread the needle of, I don't know. Are we going in this year? Are we making a big splash with Paul George? And, are we trading Paul George for a couple of good players or one good player or picks? Like, I don't know what he's going to do. On the flip side, are you rebuilding? You got a couple of really good pieces with McCain. You got the number 3 overall pick. Maxey's still young enough, but obviously these 2 looming Embiid and Paul George contracts are going to hamper you from doing anything for the next few years. So it's such a unique, interesting spot. And what's he going to do? Is he going to go for it and hope and pray? I think that's probably what he will do, but I don't know. Daryl Morey he's never tanked before. He has really overhauled rosters throughout his time in Houston and Philadelphia, and has always remained pretty competitive. This past year was the first losing season he's ever had as a general manager. So, and this is a guy that oversaw, Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, and he turned that into James Harden. And obviously he had lots of stars coming in and out of Houston, and Chris Paul and Dwight Howard. He built some really good teams. And this is his first losing season. So I'm just so curious to see what he does. He's really got to pick one of these next few paths laid out here.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay.
This is path number 1. Ready? I'm calling this path go all in for one last run.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most fun one, I think. All right. Paul George plus the number 3 pick plus the 2031st plus Jared McCain for Kevin Durant. 1 year of Kevin Durant, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's a ton to give up for 1 year of a guy in his 38 age season. But in this proposed deal, the Sixers are getting more than just KD. They're getting off Paul George's contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's also what they're getting. What do you think?
I listen, I would definitely be excited and I would talk myself into it, but I do not think I would be willing to give up McCain for that. McCain is the perfect bridge where he's still extremely young. He's going to be very helpful on a team, whether they're good or bad next year or the foreseeable future. He's going to be a really important part, a really important piece of the puzzle, I think. So, a little bit of an overpay. I could see why they would do it,
so.
but I would not. I would not give up McCain. He's too valuable to bridge between. He is like if Daryl Morey was to hedge his bets, like even if he goes all in with Embiid, he can say, "Hey, at least I have McCain to fall back on. Should this plan not work out?" So you got to keep him.
I think this would be a desperate move. I wouldn't do it, but I do think that as long as KD signed off, the Suns would do it in a second. And even though they want to shed payroll, they might have to get a third team involved, and then they can figure out places. They figure something out. But I think there's a really good chance that the Sixers would do that, even though I think it's a bad deal for them. And like this concept of like we have like what if Embiid's healthy? What if Embiid's healthy? What if Maxey's going to be great? But then we have Paul George, who's not healthy or not very good, bringing it down. But if we take so it's I see why you would go for it. I think it's pretty realistic. I think there's a really good chance something like this happens. Maybe not this exact deal. All these trades, all these things I'm suggesting, the chance of them being exactly like I'm suggesting is almost impossible. So obviously there'll be some tweaks. That might be a little bit too much. The trade machines, I think, just tell you if it's
like salaries line up.
Like CBA wise, yeah, which I don't think they're not perfect anyway. But okay, so same path. Go all in for one last round path. Option number 2. Trade Paul George, the number 3 pick, the 2031st, so far the same. Plus Jared McCain.
Don't say
so far the same. Okay. Plus 3 second-round picks, plus all the pick swaps that the Bucks want for Giannis.
Okay. Okay, I thought you were going somewhere else, but
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for Giannis, that would be fun. He's also getting a little bit up there in age. That one's actually pretty interesting. Again, I would consider McCain untouchable at this point.
Not for Giannis. Giannis is the kind of player that's like, okay, anyone that's untouchable is not really untouchable anymore. Right?
Yeah, I guess. I just think so much of it, and so shout out to tell the people, because everyone makes fun of me because I'm this hard-headed guy, and I never change my opinions. But if you recall,
you changed your opinion on him. I know.
I very much changed my opinion on him. You were very early on him, telling me how great he was, and I was like, this guy sucks. He can't shoot
because he couldn't shoot.
And and I've done a complete 180 on him. He's amazing. He's one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. However,
yes,
I think he's on the wrong side of 30 right now.
For a guy who relies on athleticism.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. His game, he's just so dominant physically that, I feel like for him, it's going to go pretty quick. That was, it's like it's like a corner in football. Like one year they're great, and then the next year it just catches up to them and bam, they're horrible. Shout out to James Bradbury. I just think with him, like, there's really nothing else. Like, even if he loses like a half a step, he can't shoot. So it's not like his game's just not going to age gracefully. Like somebody who's an elite shooter, like in theory, a Paul George or a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry, like those guys can get minutes until they're 43 years old because they could just stand in the corner and shoot 40%. Like, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but somebody like Giannis, their game
the point
is
though,
it's not going to translate.
It's a valid point. It's a very valid point. I also don't think that's enough for the Bucks, so I have that as a realistic rate of 1 because I don't think the Bucks would do that.
What was the Kevin Durant one?
I had that as a 5
on a scale of 1 to
5.
10.
It's a 5. No, 1 through 5. I think that's what's going to happen. That's actually my prediction.
Yeah,
I think the Sixers are going to trade for Kevin Durant.
Okay. I don't think that they would give up McCain, but
I did have in parentheses, if I had grade 5, 1 through 5, if KD signs off.
Which he
I could
would.
see him not.
I think he would.
I have no idea.
He loves Embiid. There's always kind of been whispers about them two getting together. They like each other a lot. Durant also owns part of the Philadelphia Union, the soccer team.
That's
so
right.
some people have said that's not nothing, but I don't know. I don't think it really matters that much. Anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. But
okay, so let's move on to path number 2. Salary dump and rebuild. So the polar opposite. We go all in for one last run. Path number 2, salary dump and rebuild. Option number 1, under salary dump and rebuild. This one, okay, I just got to say it. You ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Joel Embiid to Houston for the expiring contract of Fred VanVleet and Cam Whitmore.
Wow. That would be very interesting. Very interesting.
You would do that? You would do it, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't know.
It's a tough decision.
I see the value in both. Like the worst. I don't know. I think I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like, I think that's fine. If your goal is to just dump him, and it doesn't really matter what you get back for him, right? So
it matters. It does matter though.
How?
It does matter.
Well,
Because
I'm saying
it
if
has
you're
to
trying to be bad, like
no, it has to be a contract that
right.
Well,
right, yes, contracts that are expiring, but what I'm saying is you don't need
or a contract that you can move going forward. But
sure,
yes,
but
you don't
but
need.
the
You
goal
don't.
is
It's
not
not
to
a
get back good players. So
you can't. You can't ask the goal. The goal is to get rid of him. Yes, you're right. You
Yes.
can't get anything back.
Yes. So if that's the goal, if the goal is to get rid of him, then like sure, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what they get back.
I went through every single team, and I could not find a team that made. There was one other team that I thought made kind of sense, and it's a stretch. I'm gonna say it next, but out of all the teams that are good, the only team that made somewhat sense is the Rockets, and here's why: they're gonna probably go after Giannis. They're probably gonna be in on KD. They'll probably be in on a couple other options. If all of that fails, why not take an expiring veteran point guard and turn that into a guy who, if he is healthy, in a loaded Western Conference, all of a sudden puts you at the top. It seems like a
Interesting.
worthy risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I like it.
The Sixers, all the fans, you would all just, it's such a struggle to say yes to that. And I don't think the Sixers would ultimately do it either.
I think there is a very big portion of the fan base that would just want to dump him, and no matter what. A lot of the fan base is just totally done with him. Like even before the injuries, they just they think he's a loser and all that stuff. So I don't feel that way. Obviously, I love Embiid. He's not a perfect player. His body has failed him, but he's not a loser. He doesn't.
No, my God, he's an incredible
This is a guy who 13 months ago put up 50 points on the Knicks on one leg and a broken face. Like,
yeah, he's not a loser.
Yeah, so it would suck. I would not like it because you're essentially punting the next few seasons and you're
saying goodbye to the whole era. It's over.
Oh,
you're giving up on the era.
The greatest Sixer of my lifetime. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to put the realistic grade on that 1 through 5 as at a 2.
Okay.
And I think it's because the Rockets would have to strike out in other areas, and the Sixers would actually have to say yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. The next one, under the salary dump and rebuild, Joel Embiid to the Brooklyn Nets for Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson, 8th overall pick. And then there's some pick swaps going both ways. Sixers would have to give up some pick swaps in this. I got creative.
Hold on. Do the Sixers have to give up their 3rd overall pick?
No.
I mean that
But
is
the
great.
six,
That's a great package. If you can get that in
uh,
return, you get the
Nick
eighth.
Johnson, Nick Claxton, and Cam Johnson are expiring contracts. So you're trading Embiid for the 8th overall pick, and then you're throwing in. I have the Sixers throwing in a 2032 first and 2 pick swaps for
I
the
mean
8th
that
overall.
so that one makes a little bit of sense. I mean the Nets have done dumb stuff like that in the past.
They have a lot of they're one of the few teams that have cap space or have
Yeah,
space under the luxury tax.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, and it only takes one team, one GM to say, our doctors can get him right. We can figure him out. It would be a really big name, obviously. When healthy, one of the best players in the world. And when you're across town from the Mecca, you got to do whatever you can to stay relevant.
Need a strike.
That's right.
I have the realistic grade of that on a 1 to 5 as a 2. So both of these I have 2.
Okay. All right.
I don't think Morey would pull the trigger on a full rebuild like this.
I don't think so either. Again, it's not his style. He's never done it before. He's never done it.
Yeah.
Even when when the Warriors got Durant and the rest of the league basically folded and said, "Well, we're not going to beat these guys." Like he's like the one GM that went for it. When he took him to 7 games. And if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, who knows? Who knows what would have happened?
All right. Next one. Path number 3. This is kind of in the middle. Retool and mix it up. The first option. Trade Paul George to Memphis for Desmond Bane and John Concher. Is it Conker or Concher? I think it's Concher.
I don't know.
You don't know who that is. Okay. So, what do you think? Desmond Bane has kind of like that core in Memphis just isn't working.
Yeah.
It just hasn't really panned out. So, take a player that's making 30 plus million and make a change. Say maybe we can get a healthy good year out of Paul George. Maybe he fits better. It's good to have that veteran presence with John Morant and some of these other young players.
All right.
And then Conchar's in there to even up the money.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I could see why both teams would do that. I would not do that. I would rather just cross my fingers and hope that Paul George is healthy this year. Like if you're going to quote unquote retool, that's I almost feel like you kind of have to. Keep Paul George. If you want to retool and get some different depth pieces or whatever, what have you. I think if you're going to go this path, you might as well see what it looks like with Paul George, because you didn't get to see it last year. So if you're going the route of we're crossing our fingers and hoping that Embiid's healthy, like you might as well say the same thing about Paul George.
I think this makes sense here because Bane's younger, and you're taking a player because with all the Embiid question marks. Now you're swapping out another question mark in Paul George for a player that's a little bit more reliable health wise and performance wise too because he's younger. So I think to have some reliability to go along with a huge question mark of Embiid would be a nice fit. That said, I understand why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah,
but I think Memphis would. I think it kind of makes sense for both teams.
Yeah,
I have that as a realistic grade of 4 on a 1 to 5 scale.
Yeah, I could see the interest in both teams. I just wouldn't do it, but I could see a world where those teams would agree.
All right, so for that path, that's the only option I have.
Okay.
All right. So moving on, that's the trades. I want to ask you about the number 3 pick. If they hold on to the pick and use it to draft the player, who are you hearing? Who are you reading about? Who are they leaning towards? Who would you want?
Yeah, so it's a great debate right now in Philadelphia. The general consensus of the draft is that I think we might have talked briefly about this, but yeah, there's 2 guys, number 1 and number 2. And then from there, there's a pretty decent drop off. And apparently the next call it 7, 8 guys are a tier below the top 2 guys. So some people say, hey, if you have the opportunity to trade down to 7 or 8, you're still going to get someone who's of the same ilk that's going to be there at number 3. So a lot of the names that you hear, a lot of people are torn. Ace Bailey is the name that's going around in Philadelphia right now. So he's a forward from Rutgers, and he's pretty athletic. He's pretty tall. Takes a lot of really tough shots. Didn't really have that very good of a year. Now, some people say, hey, the Rutgers team was god awful outside of Bailey and Harper. So that's why he was taking all these bad shots. And Harper, who's going to be the number 2 overall pick, missed a lot of time this past year. So in theory, that's why he was taking all these bad shots, right? Because the rest of the team was so bad. And his running mate missed a lot of time, so he's just out there kind of doing whatever he can to try to create offense. So there's a segment of Philadelphia that likes that and want that and say, oh, this guy's the next Paul George, and he's really long. He can help right away. There's other people saying that he's like super raw, which he is. But he could potentially have like the highest ceiling of these guys. So I don't know. Half the people want Ace, half the people don't. They want nothing to do with him. Other names that you hear being thrown around are VJ Edgecombe, who I believe went to Baylor. Trey Johnson out of Texas, and all
I
of
saw
these
that
guys.
one.
Yeah, all these guys are like kind of longer, like athletic wings, which makes sense. I mean, they're probably not gonna draft a center. They're not gonna draft a guard. They got Maxey McCain, so yeah, that's kind of what you see. I would say those 3 names are like the most common. Also, the other dude from Duke, Con Knipple, is a name that people have been whispering about. I don't know. I don't know. I'm very interested to see what they do. Whether they take somebody at 3, whether they trade back. I don't know. It's gonna be such a weird offseason here, man. Like there's so many different routes and avenues that they can go, and I just don't know what they're going to choose.
It's funny that you say that, because while there are different avenues they can go, they could trade back, they could trade the pick for, like we talked about, in a trade for a player. They're kind of limited to it in an extent, like because they have these 3 big contracts and 2 big contracts on players, specifically Embiid, who you really like. If he's healthy and plays well, they could be great. If he's not, they could be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of hamstrung by that. So while there's things that they could do in terms of the draft, and if they want to, it just seems to me like they're kind of limited, because they don't have, like I was saying, like at the beginning, they don't have movable contracts that can be moved, because if you're in the first apron, you can't take in more salary than you send out in a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you're in the second apron, if you're in the second apron, you can't even aggregate contracts to equal the salary. So it's hard to make a move. It's hard to make trades when you don't have, $12 million here, $8 million here, $14 million here, $18 million here, and it's just 55, 55, and 40.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it really tough to make moves. That's why, like, in most of those win now moves I think all of them, I had Paul George in the trade.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just, look, someone who does this for a living, in the front office, they might have maybe get a 3 or 4 or 5 teams in a trade, and you figure a different way out around it. But to me, going through this, I don't understand how they would make a big trade without trading one of George, Maxey, or Embiid.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And you want them to use the pick, take a player. You don't want them to trade.
Want them to. Yeah, I do not want them to trade it, because I am operating under the assumption that I will not believe that Joel Embiid is an effective basketball player again until I see it for a prolonged period of time. So, in my opinion, if they trade back and get like a nice role player to help them now, that doesn't really do anything for me. Like, I don't really want a nice role player who's going to help us win now because I don't think we're going to have the ability to win now. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but I don't. It's been so sketchy the way that they've handled this Embiid situation with the knee, and he plays in the Olympics, and then he's ramping up to start the year, and oh, by the way, he's out. He's supposed to be ready for game one, and oh, he's out. He's going to miss 10 days, and he'll be reevaluated, and okay, he's back, and he hurt his knee again, and now he's out for the season. There's nothing they could do, and then oh yeah, we're just going to go in and scope it. It's like there's just been so much up and down. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, is he like going to play or is he not? But part of the problem is I don't think they know.
No, I don't think they do. I don't think anyone knows.
No, they don't know. So yeah, he's a gigantic human being. His body has failed him. It's continued to fail him, and I just don't see it getting any better. I mean, he's again on the wrong side of 30. He's huge. He's had lower body injuries throughout his career. And I just don't see, just historically, guys who are 7 feet tall, once their knees start to go, they don't get better with age.
Yeah.
They get worse.
You're right. And he's had many different injuries that it's hard. It takes a toll.
Yeah.
All right. Subscriber questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. We have 3 subscriber questions from your fellow Sixers fans.
All right.
At Philly Process Prime, would you give up the number 3 pick in a package for Brandon Ingram or Lauri Markkanen?
Oh my God.
So first of all, you can't.
No.
I don't even know how you would do that. I really don't know how you would do that.
Is this you? Are you trolling me with the Markkanen?
Oh, I forgot that you hate Markkanen. I forgot about that.
Dude, Markkanen, I don't know what people's like obsession with him is. He's not that good. Like on a bad, like worst team in the league, bad Jazz team. Again, typically you might think good stats on bad team guy. This guy had average stats on the worst team in the league. So like I never got it with him. So like my answer is God no, like absolutely not.
What about Brandon Ingram?
And what was the package again? Was it number 3 and Paul George?
Just number 3 in a package. It wasn't
Number
very
3,
specific.
Oh, number 3 in a package. No, I would not. Hell no.
It would have to be. It would have to be one of their star players because you can't really get it done otherwise. I don't think it works either way. Because I think Lauri Markkanen makes. I think it would have to be Maxey actually. Obviously not doing that.
Absolutely not. Nope. Thanks, but no thanks. Just never been a Markkanen guy. Like I know people like him, and
he was really bad last year.
I know he's not that good.
Really bad.
He's always been fine.
No, he's had good seasons. He was terrible last year.
He is European Anunoby, is what he is. He's got long arms. He can hit corner threes. Like whoop-de-doo.
No. His play style is nothing like Anunoby. But anyway, I get it. You don't like him. Okay. All right. So, wow. So, let's move on.
Resounding no.
At Trust the Knee. Is this person serious with that name?
I don't know.
Oh my God, it's so good. That's so funny.
Are you sure it doesn't say don't in front of that? Don't trust the knee?
It does not say it.
Oh
Trust the knee. Is this finally the offseason? The Sixers trade Embiid. What's the price? Well, we talked about it. Both of us think no, but I think I laid out a couple structures that would work, and there's something along those lines. It's feasible.
Yeah, my gut tells me no. I'd say that there's I'm sure there's a 5 to 10% chance that he gets moved, he gets traded, but I would be very surprised if that happened.
I agree. All right, last subscriber question at Maxey MVP 2030. What's the best draft pick plus free agent combo the Sixers could land while keeping Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid? Well, we covered this in like the first segment, I believe.
Well, keeping.
There's not much.
Well, no, but he's saying
There's not much they could do.
Yeah.
There's not much they could do. What's the best? Well, the draft pick doesn't really impact that. And then, so what? Grimes and whoever they draft, or Yabusele and whoever they draft, or someone along those lines. It's not very exciting.
Yeah. Wait, no. Was the question who could they trade?
What's the best draft pick plus free agent combo they could land while keeping Maxey, George, and Embiid?
Oh, okay, got it.
That's why we did the first segment about the apron and where they stand and the payroll, because the best one is not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they can come up with.
Any closing thoughts you want to say to Sixers fans?
I mean, we're still here. We're still bad. We've been bad for a long time. Probably not going to get any better.
Good for a while, actually.
Well, yeah, I think yes. Good is a subjective term, I would say.
Good compared to what they're going to be in the next few years.
Yeah, well, that's true, and they still couldn't make it out of the second round. But no, I guess I'm like cautiously optimistic. There's basically two kind of ways this can go. Again, I think they're going to keep everything as is, make some moves on the margins, but either the two guys are going to be healthy and they can make some noise, or they're not and they're going to be awful. So either way, like, I think that they're in a relatively good spot, just because if they're good, then great, fantastic. The East is going to be really bad next year, and maybe you get some luck in the playoffs. Maybe somebody gets injured or whatever the case may be. Although thoughts and prayers, I would never wish that on anybody. Or if the two aren't healthy, then they're really bad and they have a lot of assets and they can start to put some pieces together for when these contracts expire in a few years, and hopefully start to build their next era, their next roster at that point.
Yep. Couple things. I do want to just tease a couple episodes coming up. So as off-season transactions are made for the Sixers, we're going to talk about them. Maybe we'll have some emergency pods, depending on the category, on the size of the move. Like if Embiid is
Durant pod is an emergency pod.
The KD pod to the Sixers.
Yep.
That's my actual prediction, is the Sixers will be trading for Kevin Durant.
Wow. You're getting good at this hot take stuff, man.
I know. We're also going to have more off-season episodes, previews coming. We'll not more. We'll just have one more. The Knicks will be out.
And the Nets.
And Nah, I don't think so. BK all day.
Yep.
Everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please please comment below. And of course, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Silly pride and Sistad soul, Andrew rapping and wild bulls. Together they talk sports and dreams, right behind the scenes. It seems Philly versus NY, who the call, who's the greatest, who will fall with this rivalry. Loud and clear, join the chat. It's time to cheer. Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun.